Okay, this is January 14th, 2025, regularly scheduled meeting, Clemens City Redevelopment. First item on the agenda, roll call. Carl Saylor, that's me, I'm here. Samara,
She's here.
she's here virtually.
Virtually. Yeah.
Okay,
Virtually.
yeah, virtually, yeah, you're. Angela.
Here.
Tad. Here. Scott.
Here.
David is not here. Next item on the agenda is minutes.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Do I hear any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, minutes. We're going to insert this election of officers in here. We're supposed to elect officers every year, as you heard Greg say. Does anybody want to propose a slate?
I propose that Carl stays our president of our committee. As long as he's willing to do it.
Are you willing to be vice president?
Sure.
And you willing to be secretary? Okay, one disclosure, they are supposed to operate on me Friday, so assuming that I come through alive.
Let Scott be ready to take the oath, is what he's saying. He could be doing LBJ on the
I
plane.
want the keys to Air Force One.
Anyway, so that's just for disclosure. Okay, do we have any other suggestions or anything? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it carries. By the way, for the notes, I might not be here next week.
In order for Samara
We have to do a roll
we have to
call,
do
since
roll
she's
call vote.
virtual.
You have to do roll call vote.
Well, virtual, okay, a roll call vote. Samara?
I keep cutting out you guys, so I can only hear just a little bit. I'm
That was
sorry.
election of officers.
Okay, they've nominated a slate of officers, which are the same officers we previously had, which was Carl, Scott, and Dr. Cotter. Yep.
Okay.
And because you are virtual, technically, if we're counting you on attendance, we have to take a roll call vote. So he was asking you if you would vote for that slate. There were no other slates proposed. Okay. You didn't want to do any of those jobs then?
No.
Okay. That's one vote.
I can give her 5.
Do we all have to do?
Yes.
Round the horn.
Just write down the,
Yes.
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 Now,
Okay.
for the minutes, do we need a voice vote for that as well? For the approval of the minutes?
I mean, honestly, I don't know, Greg. It's up to Greg. What do you think?
We had enough people. to
Actually,
approve
you don't really
without-
need-
well,
Vote on
that's,
minutes.
there's discussions between whether or not you have a quorum short of that person if you need to do that. I'm going to suggest that just for today, since we've got this, and since I'd rather be safe than sorry, let's go ahead and do a quick roll call vote on the minutes approval, which they already did by voice vote tomorrow, but the minutes as distributed, they voted to approve. Is that something you would approve? Okay,
Yes.
and then let's poll everybody.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. That's easy, why not?
Okay. Okay, we got those two things out. Next item on the agenda is LM&L. The data has been submitted to the state and to the lawyers, and I've heard nothing.
I've heard nothing.
So, who knows what's going to happen? We have a new governor.
Yes, they
So
did.
maybe something
There's
might-
administration change, and so you can expect a little bit of a delay.
Yeah, maybe something might happen. Jackson Line Street, any update?
So I've been in heavy conversation with the proposed developer. He would like to step out as he acquired 77 acres north of the city that kind of is going to take up substantial money of his. So Mayor and I talked about yesterday, I will get a letter from him stating that he is backing out. He is not, he doesn't really want to, but he thinks his time is going to be consumed heavily on the 77 acres as he wants to get going very quickly on it. So I am sorry about that, as I was the one that found the developer. Then we also bring up, I'm just bringing this up, I know the way the board feels, but I've talked to the county commissioners multiple times on,
They've talked to you.
yes, they've talked to me, reached out to me. So if you guys just want to put that in the back of your thoughts, they are willing to swap the Washington and Van Buren Street property for the Jackson and Lime property. I know that is not what you necessarily want. I, however, am in this weird predicament where I want good grace with both agencies, so I'm trying to run, you know, ride the fence, walk the line, whatever you want to say. So I will let you guys decide that. I am sorry. I will, Dale and I can meet later this month and possibly look and see if we can reach out to any other developers to, I mean, we have the set of prints, everything's been designed. I know building planning, we're not 100% on board with the designs, just the way it was sitting. They wanted stoops and we're not getting stoops and different things like that, but it's a great piece of property. I hate to see it not get developed, but also I want to have an olive branch in my hand, so I walk a very fine line. So that's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
The county's proposed use is a parking lot, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Paid parking. Well, I just gotta,
I mean, I'll make one
And they've
comment.
got a parking lot, and they want to give us a paved parking lot, partially paved.
Yeah,
Which is
that's
small,
basically
which is small.
it.
And-
A parking lot.
I hold no ill feelings towards anybody. I am just doing my job.
Understood.
Duly noted, Chuck.
Duly noted. Okay, we will cross that bridge when we come to it. Yes. Okay, do we want to put you in here now, I guess? So, the farmer jail property,
Yeah, yeah.
how about it?
Jeff Schroeder with Moat Park Group, and we've been looking at the, what will soon be former Lily County Jail, and brainstorming, had a few initial meetings with, a few of you, and what I've got is a presentation. I can show you blocked out areas of the plan of potential uses. The city police department is a big piece of that, but then I think also, you're looking at what is economically viable in the long run, and then also what will, be a nice accentuation of your downtown and draw people here, not just from in town in Whitley County, but adjacent areas. So, and we've also done facility assessments. We've walked the building a couple times. So in the end, there will be a final report that'll have all of that. Today is more of a preliminary look to get more opinions on, are they good ideas, or is there additional information, you want us to pursue, and take it from there.
Yeah, so we set up chairs for you to go gather around the TV for the presentation, if you will. As a reminder, this is the feasibility study that the Redevelopment Commission and my office jointly paid for. And your representatives, if you will, on the kind of, I won't call it steering committee, but on the, I guess, discussion, or in the discussion has been both Carl and Samara as a part of that. So I will try my best to get you.
At least for a few more days before it got home. So, that's.
Why is that a green chairs?
I'm supposed to be.
Oh, I'm supposed to stay away.
One more chair.
These are nice chairs.
Should you be able to see that?
Try. Okay, she said someone.
So for right now, we're calling it the Hub as a project name. I mean, that, as we get towards the end of the study, we have other ideas on that. This is, like I said, a conceptual presentation of the existing jail. There's just a few pictures of what it looks like today. So right away, I'm going to go into the floor plan, and we just overlay the existing plan as it is with different colors. It's going to be hard to read some of these rooms, so we'll start the existing front door. It's here where I have the cursor. And so this dark blue, so the dark blue is the city council. So we were trying to reuse some of what's already set up now as the sheriff's department. So we have the police chief, deputy chief, sergeant. Yeah, that probably helps. They've talked about having a separate entry along with the shared entry so that, let's say the rest of the center is not open, and someone would still need to walk in, they can come to the front counter of the city police. Right now, there's a large restroom group in the middle because of the multi-purpose use of this facility. We're talking about moving the public restrooms where you see this darker yellow. The whole building has a lower level below it, so we can poke through as we need to for plumbing changes, etc. The other component, now this is not the full police department. They have another section that is in the lower level. But we have interview rooms, administrative assistant, break room, those type of things. And they were able to, we can utilize this existing garage in the back too for storage. I think they talked about kind of putting some of the lost and found at this level. A big piece of this would be have some sort of a public interaction point. So there'd be like an information desk, be kind of the public face of the police department. I think that'd be an interesting, and it's really shared with that administrative area. So, it's not like we're potentially adding personnel. I think that's obviously key in all of this. And we'll get to the rest of the police department when I go to the lower level. So then we're looking at making a larger entry into this hub because it's multi-use, let's call it tenant. And so the yellow is really circulation and public space. And we've talked about, as you go through it, having display areas where we could have local art on display. And if it's for sale, you can have a QR code where it brings up how to get a hold of that person and maybe, what they're asking for it. And that would be sprinkled throughout, but mainly in this main corridor. We would leave these two existing restrooms as single use, like a family restroom. And like I said, we would create some new public restrooms here in the core. The green is meant to be retail space. And so we have a large one in the corner, and these are just examples of what they could be. I mean, that's all about, getting it marketed and signed up in different lease agreements. I mean, this could be health food store where it's pre-prepared food. There's been talks of, maybe barber shop, boutique, some sort of candy soda shop. And as part of this, this green area here that's a rectangle, right now we're showing it just as open seating, kind of a hangout zone where it kind of becomes a community point. But if there's a large demand for tenant space, that could also be another tenant area. It would not have to remain the open. On the Main Street side, where the Sallyport entries are now for the Sheriff's Department, we're showing a couple new entry points into this center. And along this side, we would propose some outdoor seating, planters, and a place where food trucks potentially could pull up and service that area. There's more of this in the lower level, but I show on this level some incubator office space
And that can take many forms, and I've got some pictures later on that show how that can be. It can either be open, collaborative, or where someone would say, I've got a small business, I'm trying to get started, I'll take that whole space until I grow out of it and need to move on. A big component of all this then is a family type, I don't want to say entertainment, kid fun center, where families with children pretty much of all ages can come and do many different things. And there would be a central check-in security point for that that would have good visibility down the various corridors. And then various points of this are there'd be a rentable party room, maybe an arts and crafts area where you could, purchase or sign up for something. Today we're going to make a certain item. It'd be a cyclical thing. Sensory room, those are pretty big anymore. A place where kids can sort of calm down or desensitize. I mean, this could be a pretty crazy zone here and get fairly active. Multi-level climbing area, the existing basketball court that is partially open, I think we'd want to enclose that, make it an indoor conditioned space. But that could have a climbing wall, and there's tall enough height in there to do some slides, those type of things. Probably the most interesting part of this could be something like imagination area, small scale, Main Street, different shops that are tailored for smaller kids. They have tactile things they can mess with, and then place for the adults to hang out, smaller restrooms that are right in that area, and even like a mother's room. There would be some administration items, place to park strollers, that type of thing. The lower level has the balance of the police department, and so we're talking about keeping the indoor shooting range. There would be some storage areas for evidence room, those type of things. We would open this center part up and make it a large training room and what's it called? It's like a 3D training, Milo, I think is the name of it.
Milo range.
The Milo range. Yeah. That could be set up in that same room. We'd have the squad room down there where there'd be various stations for the officers to do their work, conference room. There's already a break room down there and some restrooms, so a lot of this can be renovated and not totally, demolished and started over. The yellow area again are the public areas. There's already existing restrooms down there, the elevator to go up and down. There are 3 stairways, one at the front and one at each side. So
Those already exist.
those are there now, yeah. I mean, the whole idea of this was and that's really why I wanted to overlay the existing building, was just kind of to see, what's there, what's usable. There's no reason to start from scratch. These 2 areas are more incubator space with for office, new businesses. And a lot of times you'll have a shared workroom, break area where you can go use a copier, bring your lunch and have a place to put it, etc. In the back end, right now, this is all files, storage, etc. We've talked about maybe creating a city employee fitness center. So it'd be for all city employees or for whatever level, you would so choose to open that up to. And as part of that, I think we would add a couple restrooms right in that area so people would not have to leave the center and come clear up front. I would leave the rest as storage, and then these dark or medium gray areas are all utilities, services, things that need to remain as is, mechanical systems, water, electric, those type of things. So on first floor, I did look at an option that increases the amount of potential retail, and/or this could also be incubator space. Depends on where the demand is and how it can be filled up. I also wanted to show from the parking lot in the south here a way that We could build in a ramp so you could come up and get into this building. It's probably 5 foot, 6 foot difference, so it's not just an easy walk out the back door. The other thing this does is it does create a public entry point. Before, the family kid center went all the way to the Main Street wall, and so this creates another path. It reduces the size of this probably by a couple thousand square feet, but I think beyond the study, once things would really start, I think we'd have to start looking at how this space would be filled in with the various components, like the little Main Street look and some playground items for toddlers, etc. The same pieces are all there in this reduced square footage, just some of them are a little bit smaller. The other part that changed a little bit was I moved the public restrooms because now the public path turns here. But pretty much the rest of it's the same. I did widen out this retail. There's not the dual entry off of Main, there's just now the one. So in a way, this might be more efficient, plus it gets us a common entry off the back. And down here in the corner, I mean, basically you're looking at lower level and first level, 50,000 square feet total. That's what we're dealing with. Let's see here. So then I have some images of what we're talking about. So you can see there's what they call softscape, so the kids can't hurt themselves with the covered up support slides, rock wall with the pit to fall into. These Main Street looks probably could be taken care of locally with some building trades, and I think some of these can get expensive if you go look for companies that do this, and if there's creative ways to create something like this internally, I think that's wonderful. These do get expensive, these plastic playgrounds. I bet everything I'm seeing in that picture there would be $60,000 to $80,000. It's kind of crazy what they
It's on
get.
par with a, we'll say, medium-sized swing set playground that we do at our pocket parks and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's very in line with that cost.
Right. Just images of, what a rentable party room could look like. The sensory rooms, a lot of times they'll have the lighted bubble tubes, the lit fiber optic strands. There's usually tactile things they can play with, either on the floor or on the wall. And the lighting is usually a little more subdued. Your innovation, makerspace, arts and crafts, again, would be something like this, where there's a lot of supplies and materials, and it would be through a planned event. Like I said, the police department, we would have a training room. Here's the Milo. It's like a large kind of wraparound screen that they can train with. This was that piece I was talking about on first floor, where that could be like a public window for the police department. On the back side would be, once I'm truly in the department, that's where I would take, the administrator would be the front counter for business there. The fitness center, and I purposely looked for pictures where these were not in areas with windows, because it would be in the lower level. But a lot of them do have mirrors, a lot of times where the weights are, and I think it could be made pretty attractive. Incubator, this picture in the middle is a good example of when the company rents the full space, they're not sharing it with anyone. The picture at the top and the bottom is more where there's a common area and you pay so much a month to be part of that, and then you have these breakout rooms that you can use, places where there's printers, those type of things, and small little meeting rooms. And so, yeah, and then commercial, that can be whatever, and these are pictures of examples of what I listed, boutique, grab and go food, candy, pop store, barber shop, outside, place for food trucks, chairs and planters. Depending on what is in the building, I think we would look at, we will expand a lot of the window area and recreate some of the look. Common elements, this would be the artwork displayed throughout that you could through a QR code, find out who did it and if it's for sale. That family center, I think, would also just act as the center's information booth. It's right front and center, and then this would be that open dining area or hangout zone. I mean, you see a lot of coffee shops where people kind of do their work there for the day. So that is what we have put together so far. Let me go back to,
Tend to lean more toward the second concept with more commercial space. I think Carl had brought that to the table a little bit
Yes.
more. I think it creates a little more cash flow, but it still provides significant indoor playground space as well.
yeah, this is still 10,000 square feet.
How much?
10,000,
10,000 square feet.
this
yeah.
purple area, so yeah.
Yeah.
I like that new entry that you got from the back. That's,
Well, I think we
Very
have to realize that's where the parking is.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's a good idea.
And so this could be dressed up. I mean, we could have a nice awning, and even this end space, if it was a tenant, you could have an entry directly into their suite without coming inside, and maybe they would have dual way in, but you could have a nice canopy over that, some window.
Thoughts from the redevelopment commission on what
Yeah.
you're seeing?
Any-
Obviously, we,
Any questions or suggestions, or?
I agree with the second configuration, that makes the most sense. I mean, Dale, you didn't want to want us how much need there is for a type of space.
Mhm.
I would think that there's demand for it.
Yeah, I agree. I like more retail space in that area.
Mhm.
I'm
Well,
assuming we don't have anything in the new park that's going to be indoor.
in Eagle Park?
Yeah. Is there any
So-
indoor like areas?
30 years.
There, I was gonna say, there is plans for an indoor athletic facility of some sort in the future.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking probably tens of millions of dollars for that, obviously.
Like a field house.
A field house kind of concept.
Okay.
Again, I don't see that, I mean, I don't see that in the next 5 to 10 years. I think that's a big goal for the future kind of thing, but, you know, ultimately to that point, and I think it's a good point, ultimately, one of the things that we had put into that indoor field house idea was an indoor playground.
Sure.
But as this building became available, it made a lot of sense for us to put it downtown, near eateries and near shops and near downtown festivals and all those kind of things versus out at the park, which is great, but there's nothing to really surround it in the winter time when the outdoor amenities are not as accessible, let's say it that way. So.
And in terms of, trying to phase this, I think the easy move is potentially the police department. And even could be done with minimal work, and then, okay, now we're gonna do a little bit more, and we may have to shift you around to, you may decide, initially, we're gonna leave these restrooms here, let's get them moved in.
Yeah.
Or not, you may say, no, let's get the dirty work out of the way on one floor at least, in that part of the building. Now, pretty much the rest of the building is heavy demolition. A lot of the reinforced block walls, they've got to come down, a lot of heavy doors. So, another part of our study is to come up with a probable cost idea of estimate, budget estimate. We'll definitely look at, that demo cost. I've got a little bit here to talk about the existing building too. But then look at, putting it back together and keeping it, not out of control, moderate, well-constructed, those type of ideas and thoughts. And around the perimeter, especially where the retail is, I think we will look at opening it up more with bigger windows, taking away some of the brick, getting rid of those small windows. So it may have a different look once you turn the corner. Those are discussion points for
But
them.
I think one thing, Jeff, I do want you to touch on is a part of this evaluation of the building was about, number one, is it feasible, which I think you're showing that it is feasible, but I think second is whether the building is in good enough shape to do something with it.
Correct.
So-
And that's kind of what I got here in my
Yeah.
hand. We
Yeah.
came here a couple times.
Yep.
Looked at the outside, the roof, and then all the systems inside. We had some good information that was given to us. This is just going to be very brief here. This will be on the mechanical, electrical, plumbing side of things. A lot of the plumbing was redone, so I think the plumbing will get rid of a lot of it, but the mains that are down below that we can tap and move things around are good. The control system, you know, the thermostat and how it talks back to the valves and dampers is pneumatic, which is the older way of doing it. It's not digital. So at some point, they're saying you should probably plan on investing in new controls, as pneumatics need a lot of maintenance, and it's just getting to the point where they're not as prevalent. The boiler's fine. Boiler plant, I mean, there's more than one boiler. The chiller plant was new in 2017, 2018, should last another 30 years. All the air handlers, and most of them live all down in the lower level, are original. They still work, but as they get 40 years old and need parts, they are not as available anymore, and you will have to start replacing them in time. If major renovations are planned, you could potentially address it then and look at it, you know, individual basis. So we'll probably take that piece into account when we come up with an estimate. I wouldn't say we'll look at a wholesale change of all new, but maybe a percentage of that would be upgraded, and probably doing a digital control. So in terms of those systems, and then there's a whole list of, you know, what had been changed and when. It was pretty good regular maintenance on the building. The one roof on the Market Street side is, as I can tell, is still the original roof. The back half over the cells was replaced, I just lost it here, in 2018. So that one should last for a while. Usually you can get 20, 25 years out of a roof. They're both ballasted because it is concrete roof, it can support that weight. Problem with those is people get up there and walk around and there is a leak, they're hard to find the leaks and repair them. The stone does help protect it against the UV rays, so it does last longer. So it's when it be time to replace them, you can decide what is the best. So I'll probably pick half of the building and say that front half should be looked at. If you're going to invest money, you don't want a leaky roof, you know, above. And if we would inspect it further with, you know, a roofing company and let them do a final report. The structure, very solid. There's no, you know, it has a large basement, but there's no signs of water leakage or anything like that. There's a little bit of brick work, tuck pointing that had been done, but it all looks like it had been done properly on the roof. He said if the maintenance of the building envelope is kept up, this building will be here for years to come. So it is a very well-constructed building, and that's partially just because of what it was. Poured-in-place concrete, it's very, very strong. So that's kind of the...
So a couple things, I guess, on our side is that, you know, we have accepted the building from the county, and the timeline, I think, for the official key transfer, if you will, is March 1st. You may or may not know that some of the operations have moved to the new building, but have not all moved over there yet. Inmates have not moved over, as I understand, is a big part of that.
They haven't as of last week.
Yes,
When I
yes.
visited this.
Well, so as I watched the county council meeting, it appears that there are still some finishing touches that the contractor or subs have not done yet, which is why they haven't moved. With that being said, March 1st is in the agreement. March 1st is the transfer date. Now, at the end of the day, if they end up needing more time, we're not in a hurry. We're not here on fire, so I'm sure we could maneuver on that a little bit. But I will say the county's already approached me with probation not really having a home when this is over. They originally planned to move forward with acquisition of the Bowen Center building, catty corner over here, and they have discovered some maintenance issues that they need to get addressed, and so they're going to be having negotiations and discussions with the Bowen Center on those things, as I understand, which is why probation doesn't have a home currently. And if that work has to be done, I said, again, we're not planning to do this construction on March 2nd, so that's fine. You can stay there for a while, just pay your utilities and we'll call it a day.
And probation is in the base.
Is in the basement,
And it's
yes.
some of that later developed
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
Yeah.
So from a timeline perspective, acquisition of the property, if you will, official acquisition of the property is March 1st, okay? We anticipate there's gonna have to be a little bit of time for security cameras, fiber optics, all those, door strikes, things like that, we're gonna have to put into the police department. But again, to Jeff's point, we feel like we can move the police department in pretty easily with very little cost. So the question is, how do we pay for this, right? So, we actually have engaged Baker Tilly, our financial advisor, this is probably more for you, which we could talk about at retreat too, but, we've engaged Baker Tilly to do the financial consulting for what does it look like to use our CUNE-CAP development fund for long-term funding of this project, so bonding on the construction of this. CUNE-CAP development fund was created when we redid City Hall back in the mid-1990s. And then we paid that off at the beginning of my term, my first term, and we bonded for the Aquatic Center on that. That's a 10-year bond, so that gets over somewhere in 26, 27. So we're looking at what does it look like. Again, some of that's going to be what is the potential cost, right? And then we'll look at what's our bonding capacity and then make some decisions off of that. At the end of the day, if for some reason the costs come in so outrageous that we can't do what we want to do, we do have the clause in the agreement with the county to basically sit on it for as long as we need to sit on it, and then we can dispose of it. I think within the first 5 years, they get right of first refusal on getting it back. But I do think there's opportunity and potential here, and I think we'd be silly to look at a property like this right on our downtown square and not see potential in it. So that's kind of long story short. That's not. It's long story long on where we're at with this, but this is all preliminary, and so if we have the public watching on Facebook or later on YouTube, this is all preliminary, but we wanted to see if anything was actually feasible before we move forward with any kind of plans and engineering and things like that, so.
There was one additional
Yes.
concept we thought of, but I haven't graphically shown it, and that would be, is there a way to bring in a residential component to this? Now, you would park that up on the roof and probably put it up here on the Market Street side, knowing you have a stairway at both ends. Elevator's really not in the right spot, but in doing, let's call them apartments, condos, whatever, front to back with some sort of connecting and back in. You gotta remember, all bedrooms have to have windows, so that, it gets difficult when you start stacking them and you can't get too deep. Now, what you could do is they could each be 2 stories. So main level, I come in the back, I enter into a kitchen area, and there's a dining area, and then on Market Street is the living. Somewhere and there's a stairway. I go up and I can go to the bedroom front and back. This is still pretty far. Those might start getting pretty big, that gets hard to market sometimes.
The other thing as we were talking with Baker, as Rosie and I were talking with Baker Tilly last week, one of the other things they had kind of brought to our attention is that when you start adding commercial components, and especially housing components to it, it changes the tax structure and it changes our ability to tax-free bond. So we're working through some of those things as well. I would say that's probably why we maybe shied away from the housing component right now, but
That's why
again, I think the idea in general though is that the housing component, if we decided to do that, the roof can take another, the load of another story with it being housing. It just couldn't take another story of confinement space. That was the rub. So when you hear in the community, oh, it couldn't take, it was supposed to take another floor, that is true, but of administrative space, not confinement space. So that's way too much information, but that just tells you kind of where we've been and kind of.
Looked at it.
Yes.
Understood.
Yep. So, other questions from the Redevelopment Commission, thoughts, ideas? I don't know necessarily how how the partnership between the RDC and the city proper and all, I don't know how that's all gonna work yet, okay? I think though between Greg and Marcia previously, it made the most sense for the city to become the owner of the property and then work on programmatic things through the RDC. So that's kind of where we landed. I think we talked about it at the previous meeting, but I just want to make sure it's mentioned. So,
Is there a timeline that you would, need to see that final report? Because I do need to still work on costing.
yeah.
And pulling all the loose ends together. And
Yeah, I mean, I would say preferentially, I'd like to see at least the cost modeling probably within the next maybe month or so. I don't know how
that
is.
would be first.
It's not super, again, we're not in a super rush. That's one other thing maybe I should mention is on the timeline perspective. Because we still have bonds to pay off with the aquatic center, and because we think we can move the police in fairly easily without having to go through that process, my personal construction timeline is 26 into 27. Yeah, I'd like to have it open by summer of 27 preferentially, but it's a question mark right now. So I just want to tell you kind of where we're at. I think, again, because of where the bonds are falling off, I think we can do some creative things from the financing standpoint with the bonding to make it work. Again, that is all subject to council's approval because they're the financial fiscal body of the city. But that's kind of my tentative time frame from a construction standpoint.
As a matter of working it though, you're believing that you can move the police department in, I don't want to say at a nominal.
I think by the end of summer they'll be in.
Okay, but yeah, it's pretty well outfitted and
it's a sheriff's office.
It's
It's just changing the nameplate and then again, video cameras and fiber connectivity. So, I do believe, as I understand, we are also as a part of the property transfer, the tower that's there. I think we're also having that acquired. That doesn't really impact you guys as much as it does the police department. And potentially fire departments too, so.
Would dispatch be over there then?
County dispatch or city dispatch?
City.
City dispatch will remain where they're at.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, so police right now.
That's what they use their tower for in part, right, was for the county dispatch?
That is part of it, yes. So there's still some question about fire dispatching and stuff, how that's happening. We're not doing it except for through Columbia City, obviously, fire, but I don't know how the dispatching, they're all moving over to the new facility, so I'm assuming they're dispatching everything from there, and that's all I know.
Okay.
So,
And city dispatch will stay in
yes,
City Hall?
city dispatch will stay here. So the only thing that's really moving to the new facility is the police department. So your chief, your deputy chief, all the police officers, our detectives, our, again, Milo range, our training area, things like that. But right now, we are on 3 different floors of City Hall. We have some police up top, some police in the middle, some police in the bottom. And so getting everybody together, plus providing the additional training space, workout space, Milo range, which by the way is at Eagle Park right now, things like that would be, I think, very, very valuable to our department.
And I think, this all comes together, having that presence of that department in this center could be very advantageous as well.
And that's the thing is again, giving, especially at times where sometimes police officers are not looked at as positively as maybe they used to be. I think giving them the friendly face and giving them a front door where families are coming in consistently, businesses are coming in consistently. But I think the other part of that is the safety factor for that indoor playground will be second to none, having the police department inside the building with them, right? So, you would think. We can't stop everything, but yes, having them 15 steps away is probably going to be helpful. So.
Should be an insurance.
It should be, yes. Samara, do you have anything you want to say? No? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Do you have anything else for us?
No, that was it. I appreciate all your input.
Okay.
Update on the budget and a final report at some point.
Sounds good. Thanks, sir.
Good job, Tom.
you think you're going to have?
You're good. You don't have to.
I am. The more I thought about it, I either need.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
Go ahead and take off, if that's all right. I do have a few hard copies here for anybody that would want to take them.
Carl probably should have one. I don't know.
I don't use it. Use it anymore. Email it to me. It's not electronic.
Okay.
Yes, I'd like that.
Okay, people, next item on the agenda, there's been no changes
I'm gonna
right now
scan it
with
in.
Smith.
And some-
Right. We are, well, I think if I remember correctly, we are waiting on phase 1 and phase 2.
Yeah,
Correct.
well, they're waiting on, we were supposed to be supplied with a copy of the phase 1, it's never shown.
Okay. Will you?
So if somebody could chase that now.
Yeah. Tim will follow up.
And, then I can, or, send it to me or send it to Zen. When it's there, actually, I can read that one, man, there, comatose. Anyway, so that should get that moving. Any other old business that we have not addressed?
That here, it digitizes.
Any new business anybody wants to address?
I forgot.
Hearing no new or old business, shall we adjourn?
Shall we just grab